Now I will talk a little about the different cultures. You see, in Europe, people are stagnated in this energy pattern. Europeans think that our culture is at a very high consciousness level, and the other cultures lagging behind us, they are at a medieval level. And in fact, going to, let's say, the Indian culture, those in Indian culture who have the ancient wisdom also think that the Indian culture has specific elements that raise them over other cultures. So other cultures are at a very low consciousness level and have to learn from Indian culture. Exactly the same in the Arab culture. Arab culture has also developed a consciousness, so they think that all other cultures have to learn from them. So it is very widespread over the entire world that the different cultures think that other cultures are at a lower consciousness level and that other cultures need to learn from them. I will start with the Arab culture. And most people in the Arab culture are stagnated in this energy pattern here. It's a male and a female side. A man uses this energy pattern, the territory energy. Women use this, identify them with this, the gather energy. But all people have both sides inside them. Compared with the European consciousness here, we shall see the differences here. The European consciousness has severe splits between the left and the right side. And this split implies that one side all the time needs to be gathered here, this side needs to get always want to expand. And also in our right side, we have this coming from there to there, always coming upwards, always having more and more and more. So we are in a constant consciousness situation where we need something new, need more and more and more and more and more all the time. And it is a consequence of this energy split. The Arab culture, however, also having two different energy patterns, is not in the same situation because these two energy patterns somehow fit together. In the right side, it's about having some kind of an animal life, but a spiritual superstructure over it. And so it is an energy pattern that somehow deals with how to construct society. We are like animals, but we construct the society in an ethical, divine way. And the other energy pattern here have exactly the same, that basically we are based on a spiritual foundation that is and our thoughts and emotions are superstructures to this basis. So in fact, these two energy complement each other in a way that you do not recognize this inner split as a conflict. In the Arab culture, there's you never find this that you always have to come up and get more and more and more. So in the European culture, we have this constant drive to expand, to conquer the entire world, to use all the resources, etc. In the Arab culture, it's more how to get harmony, to relax, to enjoy, to serve, etc. So there's a big difference between these two energy patterns. In the Western European consciousness structure here, we have a severe split here. So somehow we have the evil down here and projected outside our eye. So all the other cultures somehow are evil cultures at an animal level. And therefore we feel that they might attack us, and somehow we need a military to protect ourselves. But going to the Arab culture, they also have this split. But it's not projected outside them. On the contrary, it's a basis for feeling themselves. So they don't have this way of distance themselves from other cultures. On the contrary, they have this idea that the divine energies here somehow have created the bodies, and God Allah is the master here, creating the bodily, fleshy living species. But of course, he has therefore also created the other cultures. So even though you do not understand other cultures, and maybe you think they are strange, they are different from you, your basic understanding is that you recognize other cultures as another form of what God Allah had decided to try on this earth. Therefore, it's a consequence of this consciousness structure that you accept others, and therefore it's a very tolerant energy pattern. It gives a consciousness that you accept other cultures as were they equal to yours. If we compare the energies in these energy patterns, what is the specific energy here? I call it the territory energy, and it's mostly a psychic consciousness energy. But it is that you somehow use these low energies like an antenna to receive from the surroundings, and somehow to distance yourself from the surroundings. And it gives a consciousness that you create a kind of psychic limit around yourself. You create your the territory, the consciousness territory, and it gives you two thoughts, two emotions. The first is the primary group, it's the family structure. And the second thought is that it also gives you a feeling of a community. It might be a village community, a clan, a tribe, etc. And as we all know, in the Arab culture, there are a lot of these clans and tribes. And they are recognized as a very important factor in their culture, equal to in the Western culture that we recognize the individual as a basis. Then the tribes, the families are the basis for the Arab culture. And if we should learn from the Arab culture, it is that in Europe we have real difficulties to have sustainable groups. But using this energy pattern, it would be very easy to form and maintain groups. In the European culture, we have this idea that we need some kind of humans controlling and managing the power in society. In the Arab culture, they have another viewpoint that humans should somehow accept a divine feeling that it is God Allah that gives the rules for society. So this is in the Western European culture, we have a political leadership that can change from time to time. In the Arab viewpoint, the society is an ethical, divine society. And it gives differences in different directions. For example, if you, let's say, have bought a thing and afterwards don't need it, you can deliver it back. It's not possible in the capitalist society here. Here it is about if you can cheat others to buy something, then you can gain their money. But it's a consciousness with this conflict between me and others. If others somehow submit me and give me, then I can conquer, then I can rule, then I can be a capitalist. Here down, it's that if someone sells something to others and it was a failure, then it can go back. In Europe, we have a lot of experiments on animals in science. It would never be accepted in an Arab culture. They have science too, but very much an ethical science. And it's not seen that they would use animals to such experiments. Some years ago here in Denmark, an entrepreneur got a very smart idea. He went to his bank and told the bank he has made a little invention that he could create artificial whipped cream, almost like plastic. It tasted like a real cream, but he could make it very, very cheap. And in Denmark we had, still have, small sweets called cream puff with whipped cream covered with chocolate. And he started up a production with this artificial cream, and the chocolate somehow also was artificial, and he could produce it to very, very low costs and out-competed all others, and got a lot of money, and really a lot of money. And well, today it has changed again, because people now know the value of nutrition, that we not only should eat things of plastic, but it has to be some value in it to give health. But such an adventure, economic adventure, would never happen in an Arab culture. There's a little bit of a conflict between these two energy patterns here, because you can in this energy pattern you can have two consciousness pole. We have one here and one there. In this you have 3 consciousness poles here, here and here. And there's been problems about if you have hurt other people and you tell you are sorry. It's only 2 consciousness, hurt and sorry. It functions very well here. But it does not function here, because I have heard something, I'm sorry, but I have also a third idea that I can explain why. And that I'm not really only sorry because I am only sorry because and because and because and because and because. And listening to this, the Arab will think, oh, he don't mean it. He says he is sorry, but in fact, I don't believe it, because he tries to explain things. On the contrary, if you start up some kind of social project, with the Arab culture, you have the problem and you start a project, that's it. But here in the Europe culture, we have a project, we start up this project, and then as a third thought, we from the very beginning are aware, oh, there are some, we can imagine in the coming years some problems that might come. And therefore we, from the very beginning, should prepare us for that. So these 2 energy patterns somehow have problems communicating with each other. In the Western culture, raising kids, we all the time telling the kids, you have some drives, okay, but you need to control yourself. You need to get knowledge, what is right and what is wrong, and always controlling yourself here. It's a part of the European uprising. In the Arab, there's no such control. How can you raise children with this energy pattern? Well, you go to a Quran school. And what is going on here? Well, the children just sit and read the Quran. Again and again and again and again and again, read the Quran. And what is this about? Well, if you read the Quran, you will recognize that there are lots of stories about heroes. Telling you how to behave in a social conflict. The Quran is about history. It's about what has happened. There were some enemies, there was traitors, there were men, women, children, adults, and there were heroes that got the divine idea to do the right thing. And the Quran is full of these stories. So when children during several years read in the Quran, they somehow program their subconsciousness with a lot of stories about how to behave as a hero. And this is the uprising. So Arab people have a lot of ideas about how to behave socially in a way that gives harmony in society, to help the weak, help children, help elder people, etc. They have a lot of these viewpoints. people who are refugees and come to Europe, they think that, oh, the Arab culture, they are full of rules about how to behave, and we don't like all of these rules. We want freedom, and we want our self-control ourselves. But the good way of acting here is not to recognize the Arab society, a society full of rules, but understand that the Arab society has a lot of non-written divine rules about how to behave as a hero, behave as God's servant. In the European culture, we have sexuality split from love, split from everything. And in the Arab culture, there are connection between the energies. And if you especially are focused on your drives, on your sexuality, then it's necessary to understand that not only is this a social energy pattern that gives an ethical social frame for society, it also deals with sexuality. And it is necessary to understand that if you want a coherence between the energies, so you do not need to end up in a split, stagnated energy pattern, then you need to understand that this energy pattern, giving you this idea of a primary group as a family, extended group as a clan, etc., that the sexuality is something you should practice in this family, in this clan, and not with others. Because if you start to have sex with others, then you split this energy pattern. Then you project your sexuality outside the divine energies, and then you will it will cause a lot of splits in your consciousness.